Hi there, I am Melissa Adler and this is Shannon Oltmann. We both teach LAS 602, the management course, and we have here with us Wayne Onskt, state librarian for the state of Kentucky. And he's going to tell us about some of the issues that Library Legislative Day is going to cover, with the hopes that this will be informative for all of you who watch this, and then hopefully some of you will also be inspired to join us when we go and participate in Library Legislative Day on February 17th. We're hoping to take a good number of students to that event. So I'm going to turn it over to Wayne, and he's going to tell us a bit about the day.
Great. Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Library Legislative Day is one of the big days of the year for us. So we're very excited about the library school being involved and about students being involved. It really does mean a lot to us that you do have that interest. This year, Library Legislative Day is going to be a little different than what we've had in the past for several reasons. But I guess first I want to set a context. And I think Kentucky libraries, like most libraries across the country, are trying to find a way to meet the needs of the community, which seem to be growing and growing. You know, we still have to provide the traditional services that we've already provided. Our communities expect that. But at the same time, we've got to do the technology. We're now education centers where we're educating residents of all ages. And we're trying to meet those needs in the communities of being community centers. So, and it's really difficult to do all those things, particularly on the resources that we have. So one of the reasons we have to continually go to Legislative Day and do activities like that is because we've got to find a way to get the resources we need. Now, in Kentucky, we have some particular problems with that at this moment. In 2012, we had a small group of citizens in northern Kentucky who sued the two library districts, the library districts in Kenton and Campbell counties, claiming that the way they set the tax rates was illegal, and that they've been doing it wrong since 1979, and in some cases even before that. But of course, Kentucky has special taxing districts, which we used to fund 106 of our 119 library systems. And those 106 library districts, the library boards set their own tax rates. Well, these citizens are claiming that those boards never had that legal right to start with, legal authority. So, because there is a specific law that explains how libraries set tax rates, which was established back in the 1960s. In the interim, the legislature set up a way for special taxing districts to set tax rates, which was different. And the Attorney General at that time, in 1979, told KDLA and all the libraries that they were supposed to use the new law in setting tax rates. So that's the legal issue. And unfortunately, two circuit judges have ruled against libraries. That decision has been appealed to the Kentucky Court of Appeals. On December 15th, the oral arguments were made. So we're waiting for a decision any day now. And that really colors what is happening in this legislative session. It's very quiet for libraries, and I think for that reason, everybody's waiting to see what is going to happen. You know, we're cautiously optimistic that we're going to win. But I guess the legislators are waiting to see. So some of the legislation that we have seen in the past has been put on hold until we get a resolution.
When do you think that decision will come down? Will it be before Library Legislative Day, do you think?
Very possibly. Of course, Library Legislative Day is February 17th, which is only a couple weeks away.
Yeah.
But we expect within this month we'll have a decision. So we're waiting on that. Now, at the same time, we're pretty sure that whoever loses is going to appeal to the Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court doesn't have to take the case, but it will probably take some months for the Supreme Court to decide even whether they want to take the case. So there's a possibility it's just going to drag out a while. But as far as Library Legislative Day goes, in the last session, the House of Representatives passed a fix, which would have fixed the problem. But the Senate didn't take it up. The senators said they wanted to wait for the courts to decide. So we feel like if we get a negative decision, we can go to the legislature and get a fix. It may not be exactly what we want, but at least it would preclude closing libraries, which a negative decision would definitely do. Mm-hmm. So that's we're working under that umbrella. Now, what we expect during this session to do, which is a short session, in Kentucky, we have biennial budgets. Legislature passes a state budget every other year. In the odd numbered years, of course, which we're in now, there is no budget done by the legislature. So it's a shorter session. It's only about 30 days. So what we anticipate doing is building bridges to legislators. Mm-hmm. There are a lot of new legislators this year. There were elections in November, about a dozen in the Senate, and even more in the House. So what we hope the librarians do during this time is make contact with the legislators, reach out. For those new legislators, we need to educate them on what libraries are doing. Now, we hope they already know, but in some cases they may not. But we want the librarians and library supporters to establish those personal relationships with legislators so that when there is an issue, they can pick up the phone and call that legislator and say, here's how you need to vote on an issue and this is why. So this session in particular, we're building relationships. That's what the whole purpose of it is. Now, we do expect that some of the legislators will ask, well, what about the lawsuits? So we're making sure everybody understands what the lawsuits are all about and what the implications would be if we lose, which basically would be that we suspect that in 30 counties the libraries will completely close. In 30 counties of the state there will be no library service. We expect about 70 library buildings would close. The bookmobile fleet would virtually be wiped out. Most of the counties would lose more than half their revenue if they have to go back to 1979 tax rates. So it's pretty devastating. And we want people to understand what would happen if this becomes a reality. So we expect to have to answer those questions. But more than that, we hope it's a feel-good day. We want to make sure that legislators understand what the library does in the community, how people are using the library. Next week, so a week ahead, we will be releasing a press release from the state talking about library usage. We just have the new statistics from the 2013-14 fiscal year, which shows that the library's checked out more than 30 million items, which is actually the most ever. Now, because we often hear from people, even some legislators say, well, how's anybody using the library anymore? Well, yeah, we know they are. And there seems to be this myth that nobody's checking anything out. Nobody's reading. Well, that's just not the case. But the point we're going to make, people are using it, but they're using it in different ways. Sure. We checked out a little over 2 million items, ebooks, which is a dramatic increase from the previous year. It's just growing by leaps and bounds. It's actually more items than we checked out on bookmobiles. Wow. For the first time, we checked out more ebooks than we checked out items from bookmobiles, which is a pretty big thing, particularly in Kentucky. And we still have the largest bookmobile fleet in the nation in Kentucky.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we did on the road. Yeah, wow. We have it for a number of years, but that's the way we provide service to very rural areas, very isolated areas. So the patterns of our usage are shifting, and our legislators need to understand that because there are implications. In addition to checking out ebooks, we have about 5,000 computers in libraries across the state that people come in and use to perform functions that they need to do in order to live, basically. That's where they apply for jobs, they apply for government benefits, take college classes, work on their GEDs, all kinds of, communicate with the world, all kinds of things. And in a lot of communities, the library is the only place to do that. So, but in order to provide those services, we've got to have broadband, we've got to have the infrastructure. So our legislators need to understand that. And that's the message that we hope to take on Legislative Day.
Sure.
You know, if libraries are vibrant, they're being used, but we do have needs that the legislature can help us with. Last year, we had a very successful Legislative Day. We went with specific budget requests, and we were very successful. In fact, for the first time in 8 years, we received money for library construction.
Wow.
And using that money, we're going to be building 9 new libraries in the next year. So that's one of the things that we want to let our legislators know, that that program that builds libraries is successful. We have including these 9, we will have built 37 libraries out of that fund.
Wow.
And next year we're going to come and ask for some more money. So that we want to talk about our successes, and hopefully we'll just build those relationships that will enable us to go from there. Now, this is just the first step. What we hope, after we meet with our legislators, then next summer, next fall, we'll get those men and women into the libraries. If they haven't been or not familiar, we want to get them in there, show them what we're doing, and just build on that. We would love for our librarians, our trustees, to know their legislators by name, and it's ideal if when we approach our legislator, they say, "There's the librarian, there's the trustee." That's the kind of thing that we want to build. Now, one of the things we've done in Kentucky, we have taken a photograph of every legislator with their favorite book.
Oh, really?
Yes. And we've created the read poster, which everybody's seen as a read poster. So last year, every member of our General Assembly, all 138 members, we had a poster made of each one of them that we could give them. So when you go on Legislative Day, a lot of them you'll see them hanging in their office or on their door, and we encourage them to have those. We can give them a master that they can have reproduced and put in libraries in their district or in schools. And so we've done some things like that to help us, establish those feel-good relationships that we feel like will pay off down the road. So that's basically what Library Legislative Day is about. Now this year it's going to be a little different because it so happens that it's the day after a holiday. We try to choose a day that doesn't conflict with a lot of other groups coming, and a day when we think we can make appointments to see our legislators. So this year it's a little different because it's the day after President's Day. The legislature doesn't meet on President's Day, so they'll be coming back in, and they usually come in late in the afternoon. So we're hoping that we'll be able to get appointments earlier in the day, but we're hoping at the same time that we won't have a lot of competition.
Sure.
So we feel like we have a good chance of getting in and seeing them. We also at 11:30 we usually have a group session, a group meeting, or a rally sometimes. So at 11:30 the Poet Laureate Frank X. Walker, I'm sure you all know, is going to be speaking to the group in the Capitol Rotunda. We invite everybody to come to that. We think it'll be it's great to hear from Frank, and he grew up on a bookmobile, which he talks about. So we think that will be a nice touch. Usually every other year we have the Capitol Tunnel, which I don't know if you've seen, but we will hang the posters of all the legislators in the hall, so they can go by and see their picture and see it with their book, and that's always a good way to start a conversation with the legislator. And they love it. They love having their pictures up there. So we'll be doing that next year. But that's kind of what we're doing. And we'll have a central table set up. I don't have the room number, unfortunately, but where folks can check in, they can find the room number of the office of their legislator. Of course, everybody has a senator and a representative. So we hope that and we do it by groups, that they will go visit the legislator who's in their area. Lexington, of course, you have several. You have a number of them. So maybe we divide up and visit legislators, but
Question for you, Wayne. What color should people wear if they're going to attend Library Legislative Day?
Thanks so much for asking that. We all wear yellow. Wear yellow for Legislative Day. That way, when anybody sees yellow in the hall, they know that's the library group. Kind of gotten a name for that. So we all wear yellow.
Okay. And so these appointments, or seeing the legislators, you go, you find out the room, but are there actual appointments made, or or how is that all going to be structured?
We encourage groups to schedule their appointments in advance with their legislator.
Okay.
You can call the office.
Okay.
There's a number for the Legislative Research Commission. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me, but I can get that to you. That you call, they will connect you with your legislator's office.
Okay.
And you will schedule ahead of time that day. Now, you don't have to schedule ahead. And we have some people don't know they're going to come until that day, or they don't have an opportunity to schedule. And you can usually wait on an appointment. It's kind of like the dentist.
Right.
If you show up, they'll work you in. Okay. Although it's a lot more fun than going to the dentist.
Yeah.
But
I'm thinking about our distance students that maybe there's a number of people from Louisville, or maybe there's people dispersed around the state that will want to go.
If that's
an idea.
Yeah, then I would recommend that they call ahead of time and get an appointment for a legislator. Now, what will probably happen is the legislator's office will say, "What do you want to see him about?" And if you say, "Well, I'd like to talk to him about libraries," then they'll say, "Oh, we've got an appointment here with a group of librarians, and so we'll put you in that time."
Okay.
So they will see a group together.
Okay.
Now, that may happen, or it may, when you get there, they may say they may put you with the library group.
Okay.
Some legislators want to see the whole group together at once, and some prefer to split it up.
Okay.
So.
So we'll figure out who's going from Lexington, and then sort of.
Yes. You know and another thing you might do is you might call the library director in the county and say, "We're going. We'd like to join you."
Okay.
Some people like to go in a group. They don't especially like to be individual.
Right.
They don't feel comfortable doing that. So either way, if you show up and want to talk to your legislator about libraries, we'll make sure you get in.
Okay.
Now, for students who don't live in Kentucky, I assume other states have library legislative days as well?
They do. Now, that I'm not as familiar with which ones do and which ones don't.
Sure.
But I know that some of them do, and almost all of them have some kind of outreach to their legislature.
And they can probably contact their state librarian or the equivalent type position.
Absolutely, and I'll be glad to give them that name or address or contact information if you need.
Yeah, I remember ALA one year. I did a march in D.C., so it's a national.
We go in May. In May, we go to Washington every year.
Yeah.
So if there's anybody that would like to join us in May, we'd be very happy to have folks join us. We meet with all the congressmen and senators from the state, either them or their office staff, depending. Again, it depends on the congressman's schedule.
Sure.
But every year we're able to meet with several of the senators. We have 2 senators, and we're able to meet with them and their staff. Last year we met with Senator McConnell and Senator Paul and several of the congressmen. So we'll be going again in May this year. We'll be glad to have folks go with us.
Yeah, that's good to know. Okay.
We don't, often we will have a specific piece of legislation that we want to talk to legislators about. We'll have a House bill number and a Senate bill with a number. We don't have that this year at this point.
Okay.
It's possible the next week something will come up. But at this point, we generally just want to talk to them about libraries, make sure they understand what we're doing, and ask for their support.
Okay.
So that's what we expect to do.
That sounds great. Thank you, Wayne.
Yeah. Do you have any other questions?
I don't.
I don't have any other questions either.
I'm not sure if the students have asked anything that there are a couple, let's see.
I feel like you kind of covered.
There was a question about what did we accomplish last year.
Right.
And I think it was a really successful year. We of course we asked for additional construction funding, which we received. Over the past few years, there's been an issue of governance that's periodically arisen. As I mentioned, Kentucky, we have special taxing districts for our public libraries that are governed by boards of trustees. Those boards of trustees are appointed by the county judge executive, 5-member board. However, the county judge executive can only choose nominees that are nominated by the existing board. So, and that system was established back in the 1950s when the library districts were first being created, with the idea that we want to ensure that those people appointed to the board are library supporters who are dedicated to building the library, which the law actually says a trustee must be committed to providing library service in the county. Otherwise, the county judge could appoint somebody whose sole purpose was to get rid of the library or cut the tax or whatever. So that law is very favorable to library development. It's been wonderful for us in building library service. But there are elements in the legislature who feel like that board should not be able to set tax rates because it's not elected directly by the people. And they also feel like that the county judge executive should choose whomever he so desires to serve on the board. And that's something we feel would damage library development or threaten library development. And we have county judges who are very supportive. I think we're very fortunate, but that's not always the case. And if we had the unfortunate situation of a county judge that was not supportive of the library, then he could put political appointees, people who are not committed to library service on the board who would not support getting the resources we need. So we have on several occasions we have fought a specific bill that would do that successfully. So those legislative days are a lot of fun, where we go in with fighting a piece of legislation, which is a little bit different. Fortunately, that's not the case this year. But I think last year we were very successful in getting construction money that's going to build nine new libraries. Which is pretty awesome.
It is awesome.
That is.
Pretty awesome.
That is.
And so hopefully we'll be just as successful this year in building the foundation for what we're going to ask for next year.
That's right. Okay. And then in the meantime, so there will be people that can't go to Library Legislative Day, but I'm sure they'll want to contribute or be involved, or so what can they do now and throughout the year?
Okay. What we would appreciate are messages. If you can't go see your legislator, we would appreciate a message to him or her in support of the library. If somebody has a story about how the library has impacted their lives, legislators love those.
Okay.
And it really, a story like that really means so much more because you can demonstrate what the library is doing for.
It makes it real.
People. It does. It does. So if you got, or just a word of support for the library to a legislator, that's really important. Jot down a note, drop it in the mail, and then during the year, as you come into contact with legislators, if you have the opportunity to talk to your legislator, express support for the library. Make sure they know that you expect them to support it. We have of course, this year we have a governor's election in the state. Candidates will be traveling around the state asking for your support. So when the opportunity arises, make sure those candidates understand that the library is important and that the voters expect them to support the library. So that's another way during this year that we can get our message out there.
Yeah, great.
Let's see, is there anything else? There is a question here that not exactly. Well, what are we doing to raise awareness of libraries? And that's always a challenge. KDLA is a state agency. We do what we can, but really advocacy is not our role. The Kentucky Public Library Association has an advocacy committee that's very active. And we obviously work with them to get our message out. The advocacy committee for the first time this year has hired a lobbyist to work the legislature in support of libraries, which was a big step for us. You know, in many cases, we like to consider libraries, of course, non-political. But we have found, in recent years in particular, that if you're going to work in the legislature and be successful, you have to have full-time professional assistance in doing that. So the advocacy committee raised money this year and hired a lobbyist that will be working for libraries full-time. So that, I suppose, is a really big step for us.
Yeah.
But the committee works throughout the year in promoting libraries, getting out publicity, helping librarians understand the need to contact legislators and be part of the process, because that's not always been the case. And it may be the case with many of your students. You know, we didn't get into the library field to get involved in politics. And for many of us, you know, that's really scary or threatening, or an unpleasant thought. You know, to walk into a politician, walk up to a politician, is not something that we like to do, especially, or that we really desire to do, or to want to have any part of. But if we want to make sure that libraries continue to exist, then we've got to do that. So the advocacy committee works with librarians in helping them, give them the tools to be able to do that. You know, tools that we may not have come by naturally, that we enjoy. But it's something that we all have to do. So I hope your students are preparing for that. You know, when we go into the field, we've got to be able to explain why libraries are important, what we're doing. We've got to be able to communicate that to the funders, because it's brutal. It's brutal out there in political circles.
Sure.
The resources are scarce, and there are a lot of people after those resources. We've got to be able to make our case so that libraries get the fair share, so we can do the job.
Yeah. Great. Thank you so much for coming and speaking with us.
Appreciate doing it, and
do appreciate it.
Well, we want to make sure that your students are ready and have those tools.
That's right. And we'll see you on the 17th.
Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.